long-winded today. They spit that wad of carcasses back out and start again. Here it is, life of a bee man right here. Work never ends.
It never does.
While you're here, let's just unload this 550 pounds of pollen.
Let me get this tractor here.
All right.
550 pounds seems like a lot for a beekeeper.
It's a tremendous amount for a beekeeper, but the beekeeper's got a tremendous amount of bees. So it all makes sense. And this is as important as what we talked about with the dry pollen, except these are bulk soft packs. He's got a knife and he'll actually cut big slabs off of this and put in these monster colonies of bees. And what this is health, and to the nurse bees, as I talked about on the dry pollen, it's basically the same substitute. Short story is, this is bee production. It's a must to guys like Justin.
Appreciate you bringing this up here.
Absolutely. We got to take care of them bees.
That'll last us a little while.
That'll get them motivated. Cedar trees are getting the rust on them, which means pollen. They're loading up with pollen. That'll start blowing off in February, end of this month.
Do bees have a preference, like, for the pollen?
Absolutely. The bees can actually grade the pollen. Unfortunately, the foragers typically load it, what they're getting, and bring it into the hive. People think that those clods of pollen that are laying out on the front deck are, is pollen that those bees lost coming into the landing. That's not always true. A lot of that pollen's rejected. All the pollens have high grade, low grade protein values. And, from everything that I read, the bees can determine which of that is best.
Our cows are happy to see us.
Cows are happy. You're long-winded today.
Singles are some that I made up late summer, so they're use them just to kind of fill in places when my yards start to get a little small. I'll bring some new ones in and fill back. This is one of the yards that had a really good goldenrod flow here. They all put on a considerable amount of weight. I've had to feed the small ones, of course, a little bit, but the bigger ones all seem to not need much this winter.
Right. That's good.
Yeah.
Which that's exactly, from a feed standpoint in your business, if you're feeding them, you're spending money.
You bet.
If they're naturally putting it in a box, then they're taken care of naturally. That didn't cost you anything.
That's right. That's right. It's huge. I don't know. I've checked prices on sugar lately, but it's it almost doubled from what it was last year.
Sure. Yeah.
2019.
19.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Skyrocketed. So yeah, if you can get a year like that where they'll put up some honey late in the season and eat it through the winter, it's a win for sure.
Good.
This yard here gets shaded a little bit in the morning, so they're just now starting to
active.
fly and get a little active. And it's January, so they're not going to be just crazy, but there's a few out here searching around.
Do you feel like that aids in stretching that fall honey supply they've got by them being late starters, if you will?
It has to help because, you know, sometimes in the wintertime it doesn't warm up until late afternoon enough for them to even want to get out of the hive. So if they stay shaded, you know, most of the day, then chances are they're not getting out at all. Even if it does warm up enough to where one that was sitting out in full sun would get active, and bees want to get out and fly and feel like they need to do something. It's kind of got its pros and cons as far as that.
Now, I noticed we, of course, following you into the yard, and we're looking at your feed tank.
Yeah.
And it's got its own natural mixer back there.
It does.
One thing about it, it's staying mixed.
Yeah, you know it's back there when you're driving.
I'll bet that's right.
You'll wear a set of tires out in a hurry too.
And all you folks out there watching, you've seen me do feedings from a hobbyist standpoint. This isn't a hobbyist standpoint. This is, if he comes to a yard to feed, and now you jump in, correct me if I'm wrong, 250 gallon tote?
If it's completely full, yeah, 250 gallons.
Whether the beekeeper's mixing this himself, they can purchase it, but we basically just covered that extra cost in doing this. Here's the difference between you witness me pour feed from a jug and you see me scoot an inner cover over, where Justin backs in here, gets his hoses over to him, and eases a full box over, knows where his feeders are, puts the spout in, and pumps it full. It's time, it's him being more efficient, which is recovering more time for him to be doing something else. I just kind of wanted to show you, this is real neat to me, to see the differences between hobbyist and professional. So, I mean, I know you've stood in both sets of shoes.
Yeah.
You know, you've gone from hobbyist to professional, and at a guess, I realize I always I find it amusing when somebody says, well, now how many bees are in that hive? Okay, I know you didn't take the time to count them. I got you. How many colonies, just at a guess, do you run year to year?
About 500 is about where we're at right now.
Okay, but you see bigger numbers, lower numbers,
Sure.
like the hobbyist.
You bet.
It's just on a larger scale.
You bet.
Okay.
There will be loss. No matter how much I stay on top of things, you're going to have a certain percentage of bees that will not make it through the winter, and you just build back in the spring to replace those, and just kind of figure in there's going to be some that don't make it.
Okay.
Generally, those are the ones that I don't think I want anyways, because they're probably not going to be the stock of bees I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So it's kind of survival of the fittest.
There you go. All right. So the strong survive,
That's right.
and those are the ones that you make up more bees from, knowing they have the genetics to survive.
You bet.
Okay. Great. Well, show us some. I'm
All right,
I'm fired up.
Get this smoker lit and we'll get rolling here. I burn wood pellets, obviously. They'll one of these will stay lit about a half a day. It's pretty full, so it's just one less thing I've got to mess with during the day as far as keeping the smoker going.
Well, I noticed right off, and there's so many things you do that is different from the hobbyist. You know, I did a video tutorial on lighting and keeping a smoker lit. You just accelerated that to this is how this is going to work for me.
Right.
You're going to get a blowtorch, get your pellets, but they're on fire. Fire out, you got smoke.
Yep.
At this point, those are still coals in the bottom.
Yep.
You can put more fuel on top,
You bet.
and that's what's keeping it generated.
Right. I'll pack something. One thing that you have to really watch about burning pellets is
They'll roll out the
they
front.
roll out and you'll lay one right down in the hive and catch one on fire. So what I'll do is I'll pack some grass on top of this. If it was summertime, I'd put some green grass right on top of it. That keeps your pellets in there.
Good tip, and that's preventing that on fire, that cherry red coal dropping in that hive, hitting wax and burning up a colony.
They sure will. They'll run out of there.
That's a great tip. That's a great tip. So
and always pack it pretty tight with something that's not just going to burn up immediately.
Sure.
Something green. Cedar works real good too. Green cedar, cut it up.
so you could literally take a few boughs off of this one,
Yeah.
and you're going to want this fluffy stuff on the end.
Yeah. You want to make sure you got this thing lit good, because you don't want to have to get back into it after you've gone to the trouble to light it. So I'll usually stir it around and get some of them coals down in there. And
But now, I could be wrong, but you light that smoker, you've got the rest of the day's work to do. You intend for that smoker to stay lit till you're done at the end of the day.
right.
What are you doing with that thing between yards? While it's still lit, it's still smoking.
So I'll put a plug in it, and I've got a toolbox in here that's what I keep in it. Is a smoker, anything in it.
Metal toolbox,
Right.
obviously
It's
away
actually-
from anything.
And it's actually even got a little metal insert that it fits inside the toolbox.
Okay.
So
It has its own compartment
Right.
within a metal toolbox,
yes,
and you leave it smoking.
yes, because this thing will put off. You'll have you can see that's what gets inside
Sure.
the toolbox. So you don't want to keep anything in there that you need to keep clean or
Because it's creating a creosote
exactly.
by using the pellets.
I think these are bedding pellets that I get at the supply store. That's
Okay.
nothing special. Yeah, I'll just take some green cedar, stuff it down there. I'm gonna grab a little bit more.
And you're not, that has absolutely nothing to do with making smoke. That is preventing the loss of those pellets
That's right.
out into your beehive.
Right. That's all that's doing, is just keeping those pellets from rolling out and getting inside of a hive. If you turn the smoker up on its side and one rolls out the end of it there. Plus the cedar smells real good too when it gets hot.
We talked a little bit about that previously. I personally feel like the odor those bees get from that smoke has a lot to do with their response.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. It takes a little time to get one lit, but it's well worth having a good lit smoker before you get started, because last thing you want to do is get in the middle of something and then have to go over there and pull all this out and try to relight it.
Right. But you've just lit that for the rest of your day's work.
Right.
It's not going to go out,
Yep,
you're not going to extinguish it. It's going to sit in there and it'll eventually burn out.
That's right. About maybe lunchtime, we might pull that cedar out and put some more pellets down in there with it, and
Oh, okay.
just keep it going a little bit.
Kind of re-up the fuel.
Depends on how hard you're working. If you're pumping that thing non-stop, then that fuel will burn down a little bit. But generally, once you get one lit, you can keep one lit all day. If you keep after it. All right. I do like these jackets. I've had several different styles, and I really do like this style of jacket.
Well, that's saying a lot from a guy that's in bees 6 days a week.
They hold up pretty good.
That's great.
Well, let's get over here and dig into one of these. Honestly, I haven't really got in and done any real inspections, so.
Well, it's a beautiful day. The truck said 69. Now, it's a truck thermometer, and it does feel plenty warm.
It does.
Had I have asked you to do this on the wrong day, and I know you would have told me, no, we're not going to get into a box of bees, what would that temperature have been? What would have made you make the call, no, John, we just can't do it today?
Anything really below about 45, I don't really like to get in unless I'm just, like you were talking about, the way we feed. We just crack the box, slide it over, and shoot some feed down in there. That's about as cold as I'll really want it to be to get down in one.
And you're doing that, obviously if you're feeding and it's that cold, they need it.
Sure.
You can't pick your day.
Right.
Number two, you are doing it in a manner in which you're not evacuating their heat or disturbing their cluster.
Right, because I can feed, even though it's cold, I can feed, and then 3 days later it warms up and the feed's already in there. So it just makes sense to do it when you can.
And when it's in the box and that sunlight, you know, you've positioned this yard here for a reason. I know you did. That sun's coming in here and beating on these boxes, and they're already on a cold day maintaining a cluster temp at the core. But as the day gets like this, they get out, they cleanse flight. Okay, they get out, go to the restroom.
Right.
Back to the box. Of course, there's going to be those that are going to get out and attempt to forage. I know you saw it coming in, the cedars have set the rust, so the pollen's getting on the cedar trees. All these things working like it is, these hives build heat during this day. That cluster can carry some momentum of that heat on overnight into the next morning. Is that correct?
Most definitely. Most definitely.
So yard placement is always in your mind as you're looking for these locations.
That's right. That's right.
And it has a lot to do not so much north, south, east, and west as position of the sun.
Right. Where are they gonna get sun from? Well, let's get into one of these rascals and see what we got.
Let me stand right in the way here in front of this one.
So what I've seen, this is probably just a box of honey right here.
Now, to all of those that are out there watching, we're giving you an inside look at the stock that your nukes will be from. This is a great opportunity. Y'all get to see y'all's bees, pre-picking them up and understand how they're being cared for in winter, and kind of get a small glimpse into Justin's world and the preparation that he goes through to make this great looking box of bees a viable, very best nucleus that he can sell. So Justin's going to go through. He's going to lift. I'm going to shut up, and we're going to watch what he's going to look at.
This is just we can pull a frame of honey out of here if we want to look at it. And I'm not a fan of goldenrod honey, so it doesn't hurt my feelings at all to leave it and let them enjoy it. But we're in January, and as you can see, these bees have not even hardly put a dent in their winter stores.
Quick question. Do you think, now you're going to see this, you're going to explain this, but as these bees overwinter, typically they come on up in here, right. and you know, they may not have been into this box very long. Right. Is that true?
True, okay. Very true. Like I said, I haven't even been into these bees. We're kind of blind as far as what we're going to find here, but I'm assuming the cluster is going to be right here in the middle.
Okay, well then you go roll on along with your inspection just like you'd do it, and we'll.
And this box is still a full box of honey right there. I'll tell you what, I'm going to set all that on the ground. If you'll grab that cover, John, would you mind? And just set it over here by me on the ground. That way we can get some sun maybe on these bees while we're looking at them.
Good enough?
Yeah. I hope we start seeing some brood. The brood that I've noticed has been about the size of a fist. maybe 2 fists through the winter. And that cedar pollen you were talking about, that's usually when it starts to come in, that's when she starts to brood up. That's when the pollen comes in. They start to make some bread and feed these bees, these larvae. So there's some of that sugar you were talking about, that crystallized goldenrod.
Yep, sure is.
Right over here, but as you can see,
It's like when they open it up, they take the liquid off the top of it, and then of course then they're dealing with the crystallization.
Yeah. So what I'm doing here, I'm just looking to see what kind of laying we've got going on as far as eggs. I'm doing just to check to see how their weight, honey weight is.
You want me to hold that? Boy, their color looks good.
Yeah, these are.
I mean, if you were looking at those and kind of in your professional grading opinion, what are you looking for? Like the appearance of the bee. What do you want to see?
I like to see a little hair on them. That means they're putting off some young bees. There's the queen. Yep, right there. John picked her off. You see how the bees act around her. They kind of give her a little space there. And
they really respect them, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean,
she is just not really motivated to start laying yet. I know yesterday morning it was 18 degrees at my house, so let's see if there's anything going on in the center of this frame here.
Now, I just noticed you do something that we might not see on video. You blew into those bees, is that right?
I did. They don't like human breath, I guess. So just to kind of get them to move away where I can see what's down in those cells, I'll just kind of.
Well, now knowing that you just found her, she's on that frame.
Right.
If she was laying, if this was April, this frame would be laid up.
You bet. This would be a complete frame of eggs, more than likely, if she's on it. I'm going to set her back in here real gentle and pull this one right here beside it and see if there's any brood on it.
You know, that was kind of luck on my behalf, but you as a professional beekeeper running and gunning, finding that queen, that doesn't mean anything to you. Is that
right?
Is that right?
Well, we train ourselves to find them pretty quick. It's just one of those things you've got to find her. To make a nuke, you've got to get her separated out from the hive. So we.
Well, let's say that I didn't get lucky, and neither one of us saw that queen. What's your fallback? What do you? I mean, right now, I think what I've just heard you said, you'd kind of like to look and see what brood she does have.
Right.
We know that in April, May, every frame you're picking would have had eggs to capped larvae,
sure.
Correct?
Exactly.
All right, so wintertime, you know, these folks are getting an insight on this, and you're not finding capped brood. You just looked at the queen. The box is queen right. Why might there not be presence of much brood or eggs or?
Well, she will completely stop laying at a certain point during the year.
Okay.
For a little while.
Okay.
Generally, they keep a small patch of brood, and if I keep digging, I can probably find some brood in here. But they will slow down. She will slow down laying just to give the hive a rest, and then once it starts again, it's all on board, because she's going to be laying from then on all the way through summer.
Okay. And do you see these workers clear comb for her to start laying in?
That was kind of what we were seeing here on these frames. Was, you know, they're not bringing honey down, packing it around. These frames here are going to be.
So
this is where they're getting
what
ready.
You're encompassing right here.
Right.
I'm going to say this had honey.
You bet. That's what they've been
And
consuming.
they're either feeding, moving, or cleaning the contents of the cell, because in reality, when the pollen starts coming, whether you feed it to them or they bring it in from the world, once she triggers to lay, they know that she's got a spot to lay.
You bet.
Okay.
They, and if we looked hard, we could probably maybe even find some eggs, but I'm not seeing that they're just real ambitious about getting started right
Sure.
now.
But up until, well, in fact, it was 19 yesterday morning.
Exactly. I mean, we're in the dead of winter right now, so it does not concern me one bit to not find a lot of brood in this hive. Now, if it was March and there was no brood in this hive, I would be
That'd raise an eyebrow?
I would be a little concerned, but as far as it being mid-January, this hive here I'm proud of. I did notice something when we came in, and you may have talked about it in some of your other videos, but you can see in front of these two hives right over here.
Yes,
See
sir.
how that dirt's shining right there?
Yes, sir.
That is more than likely I've got a skunk that's coming in here at night and trying to eat bees, and he's got all that scratched back. And
You'll explain a little bit about that. I have not.
so you can see how all the leaves are all raked back here, and the dirt's kind of clean. And
Sure.
if you get down there real close, you can even see there's scratch marks all over the front of the hives here where their claws have been digging at them.
Oh, sure enough.
So-
Can you zoom in and pick up the
These are
scratches?
Yeah, those are on that side.
That's great.
They
So the signs are all there, and you pretty well know the who, the what, and the why.
right. The one thing I don't see a lot of is that you just pointed
Yep,
out.
yep.
There's not a whole lot of dead bees, so more than likely they're coming in here at night. These bees are high enough up. It's been cold. They're scratching, but they're not really drawing any bees out.
They're not getting enough guards to make this up. Now, when I pointed at that, you know what it is, and I do too. Correct me if I'm wrong, but a skunk, it comes up here, it scratches, this guard bee comes out, it's like eating sunflower seeds.
Exactly.
They start packing them in there, and all they're really doing is getting the juice, the insides, and once that's done, the telltale sign of the skunk is they spit that wad of carcasses back out
Right.
and start again. That's 4, 5, 6 bees compacted. They're merely getting the juice, the protein bang out of that honeybee.
Right. So that's something another thing you have to watch out for.
Apparently these two have been real productive hives for that skunk.
Right.
Because I see a couple more spots that they've picked on.
Yeah.
There's a double box that apparently that skunk likes one side better than the other.
Right. So I'll probably bring a live trap up here and try to catch him, because it's not really feasible just to drive around and sit and wait. So
Right.
we'll see if we can't relocate that skunk somewhere away from here.
Right.